Welcome back. Now we will get some comment briefly on the bond issue. Anytime a bond has been issued, there's been a problem, and the minority have had to hold a press conference. But before we do that, I have a message which being said to be issued from the Vice President himself, but from someone very reliable within that operation. Uniqueness of the system. This is what people need to know that they don't know. Many have indicated that there are other digital address systems in the world, of course, but do not detract but those do not detract from the fact that what we have in Ghana is something pretty special. None of the digital address systems in the world focus on local relevance in the same way that the Ghana Post GPS platform does. The Ghana Post GPS platform relies on surveyed data to provide addresses. That means when you request your address, the platform makes reference to your district and region before determining your address, unlike other platforms that just use mathematics to calculate and assign an address. Yes, Yunus of Saying was saying something, and I was seeking to ask him to clarify. Because if you are inputting anything, your house, what is your address there in your village? You don't have one. Yeah. It takes this system to do that for you. So if you say you can use that to locate your house in your village, that cannot be the case. If you can use Google, that cannot be the case, because this one has already mapped you out clearly and will provide you specific, your district, go to your region and supply you that one. Then it ends by saying, a digital address system complete with postcodes is pretty unique. A digital address system complete with postcodes that reference surveyed data is totally unheard of in the world. As far as I am aware, there is simply no digital address system available in the world today that uses Ghana-specific lands. Okay, Ghana-specific Lands Commission survey data complete with postcodes. The digital address system that we have implemented is leapfrogging Ghana into the 21st century. Dr. Bawumia, thank you very much.
But that's what he meant.
Yes. So that's what he meant by. That's what he meant by one that is not anywhere else in the world.
Okay. When did they finish?
Okay. Thank you. Can we reserve the few minutes left? Okay, Kojo, let's do it this way. I realize that you issued a statement rather a little late, and further upon the explanations you have given about the bond issue that they have spoken about, you sought to ask specific questions and address them, and in that you sought to do what you say is exposing, as Bawumia had said earlier, the lack of information that the NDC had in attacking the bond issue.
No, Samson, we don't have much time, but let me quickly put it this way. I have always maintained that there's a pattern that particularly the minority in Parliament, when it comes to the economy, have decided to follow. They throw up a lot of red herrings. And when you give responses and you even push them to do that which they have threatened to do, then they run away. It started with their claim that they were going to get the first sovereign bond debt swap investigated abroad. I'm sure you recall all of this. They'll get investigated abroad, everything. They abandoned it. Charge, not going anywhere. Then they said they won't even vote for the budget 2017 because there were illegalities in it. They voted and they abandoned their argument. They said they were going to take us to court for the District Assembly's Common Fund. They didn't. They ended up realizing that the arguments, did not hold. Recently, they said they were going to take us to court for the Finance Minister breaching corporate governance structures by instructing ADB to give a loan to something. I'm deliberately categorically, I'm going through all of these just to show that it is something they do. And this latest press conference on the bond that was done, the Energy Sector Levies Act PLC bond, is another example. And they craftily do it, and it's important always to look at the details. This is how they do it. They literally create their own figures. Then they build a narrative on it, We were just going through another discussion where different figures were being quoted. You throw out 15 million, and then you say some things about it to seek to legitimize the issue. So, for example, they had a press conference. I have a copy of that press conference here, where they say that we raised 1.5 billion. Okay, first of all, they say we went in search of 6 billion, and we got 1.5 billion for the 7-year bond. And then they also say we got 760 million for the 10-year bond, and that therefore the bond was undersubscribed and has failed. And you know, when you look at, for example, the end of their press statement, I want to read to you. It says that this singular failure of bond issuance in this administration has brought Ghana's image and integrity into disrepute. Listen to this. This is a serious press statement that's been put out by the minority. Ghana has become a laughingstock for this gargantuan failure, and the bomb that cannot be located within the recent 2.5 million Ghana Post GPS, even in the middle of River Oti. This is serious press statement that the minority has put out, and it is built on factual inaccuracies. Sometimes you are even tempted to say palpable lies. For example, this is ESLA PLC statement that was issued on the 6th of November 2017. The statement clearly talks about the fact that they got offers or bids tendered for 5.32 billion out of the ceiling of 6 billion they were looking for. That's about 90% of it, approximately about 89% of it. Out of that, because of the interest rates they were looking for, they chose to settle at 4.7 billion. 4.7 billion, about 78% of the ceiling that they were looking for. On the 8th of November, 2 days after that, the minority holds a press conference and says that it was 1.5 billion and 760 million. And then they proceed to build upon it this narrative that it has failed and therefore is a bomb. And I'm saying that we have to interrogate these matters and begin to show the pattern that this is what they do. They went further. If you read the second part of their press statement, they say that the assumptions are unrealistic. So you go into it and ask yourself which assumptions. They are saying that the assumptions that we use to underwrite underpin our calculations was wrong. So you go into it, and they have either deliberately done a miscalculation, or, I'm being generous, they were not privy to the full set of figures. They, for example, assumed that energy consumption throughout the year is the same. Therefore, if first half of the year was about 1.4 metric tons, it's going to be about 2.96 by the end of the year. And if they use that to calculate, they don't think that we can, in a year, get as much money as we are getting out of ESLA. ESLA, a year is giving us about 1.2 to 1.3 billion. The debt is about 10 billion and counting. So if you say you are going to sit back and use the current approach, minimum 10 years, while you wait, the challenges in the energy sector, where the sector is now incumbent, are still sitting there. The banks are still struggling, liquidity challenges in the economy. And that's why our alternative was to use ESLA PLC, front load the money, pay off everybody in the system, and then move on. But the assumption, essentially, is based on the fact that we're going to get even more money coming in, as in terms of what we are raising. Remember, we said we're looking for 10 billion. We deliberately decided that we'll not go by a sovereign debt instrument. We'll go by a corporate bond, and we'll go by a domestic book building approach. Why? So that we can control the rate. And if you look at the prospectus, I have a copy here, we said that we are giving ourselves a 5-year program to raise money. So a 5-year program within which we are hoping to raise about 10 billion to clean up this debt that we have inherited in the energy sector. In the first transaction, we hit 4.7. Does that sound to anybody like a failure? The assumptions that we used, as we have explained over and over again, stand the test of time. But they deliberately now come up with their own numbers and then seek to make an argument of it that the assumptions are not correct. Then they go to another one. They say the energy, the debt servicing coverage ratio. You know, in the prospectus, we said that you have to have a minimum debt service coverage ratio of about 1.25, which means that you must be able to service and still have a margin. The margin is what will build the buffer so that in 7 years or 10 years you can pay off. So they do a calculation where they say we are getting 1.28 billion inflows. We are going to pay out 1.15. Therefore, it's 1-to-1. Again, a deliberate miscalculation. Deliberate. If it's not deliberate, then I'm tempted to go back to my first argument that then perhaps they haven't looked at the data that is available. Because when you look at the data that's available, apart from the 1.158, there's a 350 million, which is already available in the account. There's a 600 million underwriting by government. which takes our debt servicing coverage ratio way beyond the 1.25 that was stated. Okay. So consistently, if you go, and then my last point, they make some legal arguments that it is unconstitutional. They just throw it in the air. They don't back it with any constitutional provisions. They say it requires parliamentary approval. Again, if you say they are not reading, they'll be upset. Paragraph 805 of the budget that they approved, it's here.
That's right.
SLES program was here, and they all voted for it in Parliament. And they do a press conference that it requires parliamentary approval after they have voted. Go to the Public Financial Management Act, Section 61. It's clear that the minister, after this, now can do this by auction. They come back and do a press conference that he doesn't have approval to do it. So the point I'm making is this. Consistently, the minority is now in this exercise of coming up with their own creation.
And that even where you are doing it, you have spent almost how much, 200 million.
Which is another untruth.
Only for the administrative process, and you are dealing with an entity who has a negative balance sheet.
Thank you so much for even reminding me of that. Again, that's not true.
Very sad.
Look at the prospectus. The prospectus says that when we are successful in raising 10 billion, 1.77% of it will be reserved to pay cost in the value chain. First of all, we haven't even finished the program. This is a 5-year program. How do you calculate, therefore, and then say that we have spent 177 million and purport to give this breakdown?
Okay, thank you.
Estimated.
Right.
It's an estimate. Last point.
Quickly.
Point. This estimate we have is 1.77 upon completion when we are successful.
Right.
The last 15-year Eurobond that they did.
Okay.
They spent about 4%.
Let's have Honorable Yunusa give a quick one, and then we move on. I can see he's made some notes. You have also made some notes. Let's see if he gives you the opportunity to also say something.
The minority is simply saying that you went to the international capital market to raise money.
We didn't go to the international capital market.
Or you went to raise money. Okay, you went to raise money for to retire the energy sector debt. You issued prospectus in the range of 5-year bonds.
No. 7-year bonds.
7-year bonds. 7-year bonds and 10-year bonds. That the first round, when you went the first round for the 7-year bond, you got 1.5 billion.
Yes.
And you
That's
went
what
for
they are saying.
That's what we are saying.
Which is not true.
Well, you are saying so.
No, we are not saying. ESLA PLC has told you already.
Please. And then you went back. For a second, you extended the ratios.
See, now that's a 10-year.
That's, you see, the pretty confusion. You give me that.
That's what the minority is. That's what we are saying. You extended it before you got the 2.4. And that in the 10-year bonds, you first of all raised 760 million in the first round. And then when you extended, you got 2.2 billion in addition.
See, now that's not true.
But that's what we are saying.
That's why you had.
No, I was there in the press
ESLA
conference.
PLC has told you that.
I was there at the press conference. I didn't hear that. I was there at the press conference. I'm part of the minority.
Your own press conference.
Yes.
And we are saying that I was there.
So that's why he's sticking to. He's sticking to what they said in their press conference. Irrespective of the fact that you have responded. Please go ahead. Yeah.
You should verify those things.
Well, come and the minister is coming to Parliament. And we are filing the question in Parliament too as well.
Okay, that's good.
Now we are saying that gave you the 61% patronage for the 10-year bond.
Amazing.
We're saying that cumulatively, when you add the 5-year, I mean the 5-year bond.
There's no 5-year bond.
No, the 7-year bond. The amount that was realized to the 10-year bond, you get a cumulative 77% of the amount that was raised. That's what we're saying. And that is lower than what you went to the market to look for. And that there is a shortfall. And that cannot be described as being successful.
You mean 77, assuming your figure is right.
It cannot be described as being successful. When you take our recent history, where our bonds have been oversubscribed.
Which bonds? Please.
Okay.
Now, Sina, please help me. Which bonds? Corporate bonds or sovereign bonds?
But I'm coming back to that. You see, I've written it corporate.
The distinction is important.
Corporate instruments and book building. Why did you go with that?
Oh.
Because you are in an IMF program. You don't want the debt to be put on the consolidated debt. I mean, the books of the government.
The public debt.
The public debt.
That point
That's why
is
you
noted.
wanted.
Yes.
So what is special about going with corporate bond or book building method? It's just because you want to evade the IMF conditionalities. That's all.
Amazing. No.
I mean, you are speaking as if you are speaking to it as if it was some engineering.
Senior, please extend your time.
As opposed to
Extend the time and
the
let's deal
fact
with
that
these matters.
you just have to do that because it will be a contingent liability
Senior, extend the time and let's
on public debt and to raise the debt profile. So what do? You set up a company, ESLA PLC,
Special purpose.
a special purpose vehicle, a company, and then you use the balance sheet of the company to go to the market.
That's not true.
But corporate ESLA PLC is what?
We didn't go and borrow the balance
No,
sheet of the
It's a
company.
special purpose.
ESLA PLC is what? It's not a company.
We didn't go and borrow
Isn't
the
there a
balance
company?
sheet.
They didn't use the balance sheet.
We didn't
Oh,
use
we
the
didn't
balance
use
sheet.
the balance sheet. So what did you use? The taxes that you will get.
Yes.
But what did you
use?
use?
They use extra.
What you did is that
the
you
constitutional-
aggregated what you will get over the years and said, look, this tax, the consumption of petroleum in this country over this period will yield this amount of money. We want to securitize the collection. Is that not what you did? That's exactly what you did. The people said, no. What are you doing? First of all, you are projecting into the future on consumption.
Yes, we have run out of time.
Oh, you are
Yes.
stopping me.
Yeah, we
I
have run
think we
out
should
of
give
time.
us more time to deal with this.
No, the intention
I
was
wish
that
you gave us more time to deal with this.
Kojo clarifies some of the points and then he
VRF
reiterates
is
what their
one.
point.
VRF is one. What did they do?
I thought that
VRF is
I thought
one.
that you give me time.
They securitize the thing.
Yes, good.
That's why we are raising the constitutional
No.
issue.
Good point. May I?
Yes.
In 2016, when they were in power,
So
they
Kojo can't
attempted
tell us that we are telling lies.
they attempt no, but you see, first of all, the facts don't bear out what you are saying. You are
Which
quoting your
facts?
own. I'm quoting the numbers.
No,
You are quoting different.
Are you
numbers.
quoting somebody's fact? You are quoting your own facts.
VRF is one when you try to pay off because the debt were
And
not
then- oh,
sovereign
you didn't-
debt. You didn't go for a sovereign bond.
You are giving me.
You have
You are giving me
been
the
You
right
go
to
for a
go
sovereign
back.
bond. You did a corporate transaction. And you are telling us to do a sovereign transaction.
A small rebuttal. Look, we have not abandoned our claim before the US. We
have
haven't.
not.
In terms of
What's the
earlier
status?
bond. Oh, please.
What's the status?
No, you
I'm
said
told
we have
it's dead.
abandoned.
It's dead and buried.
What's the status?
We haven't
On
abandoned
record.
it.
What's the
It is
status?
ongoing.
Answer that.
This is
Status.
what they do.
ongoing.
The minister has been written
okay,
to
sorry,
respond. Two, the matter before trial has not been abandoned. He has responded.
Okay.
When matter is before arbitration,
Yes.
you have to abide the arbitration.
Right, that's
Then three,
correct.
and
Yeah.
the ADB and the finance minister, you are saying that for a minister to procure a loan
Whenever
of
the
over 10
minority
million
speaks of
without
finance,
the board,
interrogate their
the
numbers.
reason we should
That's all
do
I'm
it,
saying. Interrogate their
Kojo
numbers.
says that we didn't have.
Interrogate their numbers.
Then now you are asking
He
for
says,
debt
Kojo
forgiveness.
says the case in the US is
You
dead
understand?
and buried.
Now you
Interrogate
are-
their
now
numbers.
you
All right,
are asking for
quote these numbers.
sorry,
You are asking for
gentlemen.
debt
Sorry.
forgiveness of 40%.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you. We are running out of
You are
time.
asking
We are running out of time.
to forgive you debt.
Check your
You
numbers.
have been watching and listening to Newsfile here on Joy News channel on Multi TV and Joy 99.7 and over a dozen affiliate stations across the world. And my guests have been Abdul Malik Boako, editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, Roxanne Nielsen, Dafama is MP South Dai, and member Constitutional, Legal and Judicial Committees of Parliament. Inus Afuseni is MP Tamale Central and ranking member Legal and Constitutional Committee of Parliament. Kojo Oppong Nkrumah is MP of Fuasi Ayirebi and Deputy Minister of Information. You belong to which of the committees on Parliament?
Constitutional and
Constitutional and Legal, all of you. Okay, lawyers. I'm Samson Ladia Yedenima.